Before we start with goals or routines, I have a question for you. Does your body feel safe enough to start? Welcome back to Dream Life season. I'm Kimberly Cox, your host. Today is Monday. We're on week 2. I am so very excited for episode 6. Yes, I said episode 6. We skipped episode 5. We'll come back to that. I promise. We're moving on. We're moving forward. Today, we are going to talk about feeling safe because your nervous system needs help. Okay? When your nervous system is calm, you can do all kinds of things that you can't when it's all over the place. So, let's get into our Fantastic 15. All right, guys. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. Here we are with Fantastic 15 again. I am so excited again for today, for this week, for all of it, right? So, we are going to start out with gratitude and we are going to talk about feeling safe. Okay, so today for gratitude, I want you to come up with three things that you are grateful for that make you feel safe, right? So, that could be not being home alone, or it could be when you have, I don't know, a fridge full of food, right? Or when you get your paycheck. There could be all different things that make you feel safe, right? I'm using a few of the little, like, I don't want to call them more common ones, but more materialistic, I guess, in a way, ones. But what are some things that you're grateful for that make you feel safe? So, one that I'm grateful for is homeschooling because I know where my kids are. I know that they're safe. I know that if there's a problem, I can fix it. I can do something. I'm in control of that at that point. So, that is my first one. My second one, I am very grateful for my morning routine because I know that my morning routine, my morning time sets me up to be able to respond versus react. I respond a lot better when I've had my time, when I have moments and I can kind of get my head clear and stuff, right? So I respond better, and therefore I'm not like racing around or saying things that I don't mean necessarily. So that's my second one. My third one is when I meal plan. Because when I meal plan, I know what the plan is. We have the food in the house. Everything is a go. There's nothing up to chance, nothing up to I have to run out to the store or I have to run and do this. I have to put in an order. Things have to come in on time. Everything's already done. So meal planning and either grocery pickup or grocery delivery, those are things I am very grateful for. All right, we are going to pop into our grounding breathing. And then when we come back, we are going to do a little bit of inspiration. All right, welcome back. So, I am going to give you guys just a little reminder today, okay? It's Monday, it's the beginning of the week. You know, we've had like a full week in January already. Things are probably kind of heading in a normalish, routine and everything again. And I just want to remind you that we cannot solve a problem from the energy that created the problem or the frequency that created the problem. So if you were afraid, if you were mad, if you were frustrated, any of those emotions that happen when a problem happens, the solution is always a higher vibration, a higher attitude than that. And that's not always easy. Okay, a lot of times, especially because we get so used to kind of spiraling, we get to this place where we're like, okay, this thing happened, and now I have to respond to it in some way. I have to do the thing, I have to, whatever, right? And so I think a lot of times what we end up doing is like trying to overthink, and we try to like get ourselves to a place where we're like, okay, we got to come up with all these solutions and whatever. And sometimes, in fact, I have noticed almost every time that I have done one of those Jesus take the wheel kind of things and took my hands off of everything and just said, okay, for a few minutes, for a day, for whatever, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not stressing it. I'm not thinking about it unless it absolutely needs to happen today. I am not thinking about it. And it's difficult. And there are days when you have to have like a list and things, and we will talk about that when we get down into our circles and stuff, because there are our rings. There are things that you have to have a plan to keep yourself from going to that place. Because even though we try not to, it's like our reflex reaction is to try to save it, right? To try to do the most we can. And so in doing the most we can, if we let go, that it feels scary and it feels like we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. However, if we truly let go, I don't mean like sit on the couch watching a movie but not watching the movie and thinking about that the whole time. I mean, get engrossed in a book. Do something around your house that requires you to actually like be present and pay attention, right? Like putting something together, or, doing some kind of like decorating project where you're having to like make, good lines and things like that, right? Where you have to concentrate on what you're doing because you're going to break that concentration. And we're going to talk about that, like I said, later on. But when we can kind of detach from that, you're going to find one, once you do it enough, you will start to feel safe in doing it because you will start to see that things work out. They do. They end up working out. And how many times have we like stressed over something and gotten frustrated and didn't know how to handle it and oh my gosh and all stressed out, and we didn't really do anything really during that stressy outy period that wasn't something that we could have done if we would have just like let go for a minute, calm down, let it go, let our like brain unwind a minute so that we could clearly think of the next thing to do. So you can't, it's like not seeing the forest for the trees. We're like so deep into the problem that you're having a really hard time letting go of it. So I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. If you don't make it any further than this, I'm going to say it like this. I love y'all. I know it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but the simplest thing to do is to get yourself out of that. Take a nap, do something, write out whatever you need to do to get your brain off of it for a minute. And then we can start talking about grounding. We can talk about feeling safe, because that's another thing. If we're not feeling safe, then we're holding all of that energy in. And that's energy that if we released it, could and will help us manifest things. All right, guys. We are going to get into the moving your body portion. Welcome to the Move Your Body section. So we're going to start out with some neck rolls, big rolls. Make sure you're breathing while you're doing this. All right, another big roll. Now we're going to go the opposite way. Big rolls. That's 2. And we're going to do 3 and 4 and 5. All right, now we're going to do shrug shoulders and drop them. Shrug your shoulders up and drop them. All right, shrug your shoulders up, relax. Shrug your shoulders up, relax again. All right, one more time. All right, now we're going to stretch up. Wiggle those fingers, stretch up as high as you can, and down. And we're going to do that again. Stretch, 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 and down. And stretch, 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 up, up, high, high, and down. All right, stretch up one more time, and down. One last time, we're gonna stretch, 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 and down. All right, now we're gonna stretch up and we're gonna go to the right, and then to the center, and then to the left, and then back to the center. And we're going to repeat and go to the right, and then the center, and then stretch to the left, and then back to the center, and then down to touch your toes. Hold it there, hold it there, hold it there. All right, roll it back up. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. On to the next segment. All right, guys, welcome back. We are at the In the Kitchen or Fun with Food section today. And I want to take a minute to talk about one of those things that I think a lot of us, especially a lot of us neurodivergent females, I think all of us have like a go-to comfort food, a go-to thing that we do, that we eat, that we, partake in when we're stressed. And I'm not telling you not to do that. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, I want us to start being consciously aware and make the healthiest choice in that. Okay. So, maybe you are in a state where like chocolate is your go to, right? And so there are, there's like dark chocolate, there's all these different, types of chocolate. So choosing one that is the healthiest version, it's just going to give you that little bit of, okay, I kind of got to do a thing that most people would say is a bad thing, but I did it responsibly and it's okay. And that kind of takes a little bit of the shame, the guilt of it away when we are, and if you don't have that option, okay, let's say money is a problem and you don't really have it and all you have are some Oreos sitting in there and you're like, I'm going to make the conscious choice, but make the conscious choice. I'm going to have 3 Oreos and a glass of milk or a cup of coffee, and I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to enjoy them. I'm going to actively enjoy this. And then don't look at your phone, don't do any of the other stuff, right? Just actively enjoy partaking in that. I feel like a lot of times we either don't eat, and that's another thing that we need to not do, right? Well, I don't feel like eating. Have something, a protein shake, a meal replacement bar, something that you can go to and grab. Taking care of ourselves is like the most important thing for us to continue to do the things that we do for ourselves, for our family, for everybody. So it is super important that we take the time, right, to like take care of ourselves to make those commitments and to have those backup plans. And we're going to talk a little bit about backup plans as we move through all of the rings and stuff. Um, in the kitchen, one thing that we can do is have like a go to stash. Okay. Whatever your thing is, whatever, try to have that like put to the side somewhere, right? So you have it, so you're able to get to it, so that people don't eat it out from underneath you. Like have it and have it somewhere where you know where it's at, where you can get to it, because that way it also gives you that ability to like, okay, I need this. Sometimes we need a break. And sometimes we can do that like grounding, okay, I'm going to look for, 5 things I can touch real fast. Touch the cookie, touch your glass of milk, the table, touch the, okay, now I'm going to look for, whatever it is of 5 things I can see, right? And seeing the different things. And then, and do that. And I will leave that exercise in the description for you guys to do. I'm also going to leave you guys some stretching, an article with some stretching in there for you guys. So, but that is something that if you take the time and do that, and then, like one of the ones is something you can taste. Well, when you get down to that point, you can taste your cookie, you can taste your chocolate, you can taste whatever it is, right? You have it right there, you can taste it. So I think that that is something where making the healthiest choices, having the stuff, and like I said, it really all comes down to like, and if you need help with this, you can drop a, like help with in the kitchen, or help with, fun with food or whatever. And I will talk you guys through these things, but you need to like there's like a hierarchy of things, right? Like if we're really really stressed out, then we just need to calm down from the stress. However we can calm down from the stress, we're going to do it, right? If we are in a space where we're able to calm ourselves down a little bit, but maybe we need a distraction, maybe we need something that's going to be, like some people will do baking, and like baking, kneading dough and stuff like that is a very therapeutic, kind of thing. If that is not something that you are averse to the texture of it and stuff, that might be something where you might just, I'm just going to keep, some bread stuff on hand. And when I'm super stressed, some people stress clean. I can stress bake a loaf of bread. And then my family can enjoy it. I can enjoy it, you know? But having those things that like take our mind off of things, and like I said, especially doing something physical with your hands where you have to actually like pay attention to what you're doing, that's huge. So, what is something that you can do, right? Is it your go to snack that you're going to stash somewhere? Is it, okay, maybe I will try some of this stuff that will help me get my mind off of this stuff, right? Wherever you're at right now, if you just need to have that go to thing, then put that in the comments. If you are ready to try different things, or maybe you already know what does it, you just need to actually remind yourself that when I get to this space, when I start to feel panicked, when I start to not know what to do, I need to have that thing that I can start doing to calm myself down. And that will also kind of be a trigger for your brain to calm down eventually. You do that with some deep breaths, maybe, a little bit of mindfulness in there while you're doing it. It's going to slow your system down. It's going to make you feel calm. And that's going to help you to think clearer on the other side of things. So, this was a little bit of a different fun with food, but one that I definitely feel like went with this particular topic that we're talking about. So drop those in the comments, and we are going to move on to our first ring. guys. Welcome to the Home and Family Ring. So, feeling safe. That is something that I feel like there are so many ways that we can trigger safety. So, we are going to talk about having a calm down corner, a comfort corner in your home. Now, maybe you don't have a corner, like you don't have a space for everybody to have their own particular corner. If everybody has their own rooms or everybody has their own spaces, then every person in your house can have their own special space where their special things are. And we set them all up and we make it this big deal where this is the space that you can go. If you're here, I know that I have to ask, if you want someone there with you, then I can be there, somebody else can be there, whatever. But if you don't, like, you're allowed to be there by yourself to calm down, because I think a lot of times that's what starts fights, is when one of us, right, wants to continue a conversation and somebody else is not wanting to, and they want to get away and go just calm down for a minute, and the other person's like, no, like, I'm not done talking. And I think as parents, a lot of times we can fall into that category where we feel like we have to get the last word in, because how often do we hear this, like, in a derogatory sense? You always have to get the last word in. Like, you can't just, I can't just be right all the time as the parent. And the truth is, you're not always going to be right as the parent. We're human. Some days we're going to be wrong. Like, that's just a thing. So, knowing that sometimes we are allowed to say, okay, like, I didn't see it from your point of view, or I don't agree with this, but I see your point of view on it and your feelings are valid, right? So, two things, we can have duality exist. My truth can be, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, and I didn't think what I was going to say or what I said was going to hurt them. But you can have your feelings hurt and be sad and upset. And I can say, okay, I didn't mean to. That wasn't my intention. I'm sorry. That was not what I was trying to do. And, that was not my plan. So within all of this, right, we need to find the special spaces within our homes. And if we only have one or two or something like that, then we can make like comfort bags or baskets, right? Where all the items are in one space. And when we need that comfort, we can grab that basket, grab that bag, take it to some place, some quiet corner in the house, some, area, and we can have our few minutes, right? So, what kinds of things go in that corner or go in that basket or bag? Well, that all depends. Everybody is different. And that's where we can have a little bit of fun with this, right? Because we want to be giving ourselves and others some of the things that they like, right? Some of the things they enjoy. So, whatever it is, whether it's a super fuzzy, texture, or maybe it's something that's silky, like super smooth and silky, right? So that could be a pillowcase, that could be an actual blanket. It could be, something, a weighted stuffed animal or a weighted blanket that kind of calms us down, right? We can have scented things in there, whether it's like a scented candle or, like a spray that you can just spray on the blanket and, breathe in. We can have some type of crunchy or, chewy food, right? That'll help kind of calm us down. Think fidgets, think things that, when you're like trying to concentrate, there are certain things that help you concentrate too, right? And if you didn't know that, that's another tip for you. If you have kids that have trouble concentrating, some of these things might just help them to concentrate, right? Maybe a fidget, something that they can play with their fingers there, right? Or, something that they can feel, they can hold, they can, like maybe a squishy stress ball or something like that, right? So all of these things can be either put in a corner with some lighting, and my personal preference would be lighting that can change. So maybe I need it bright because maybe part of the problem is I'm tired and I need to wake up and be more alert to be able to do the things that I need to do, right? Even though we want to be calm, and I get that. And yes, sometimes going to sleep is the best thing you can do. However, if you're mom and you still have kids to take care of, not the best idea to fall asleep or before everybody's at least taken care of, right? So maybe you have to, have some dim light to calm you down, but then be able to crank it up a little bit to kind of get yourself going again, right? So adjustable lighting, um, obviously, like I said, something with scent in it generally helps, especially helps us to breathe deep and slow so that we're, calming ourselves down because that's what we're trying to do. So, those kinds of things, a favorite kind of candy, a favorite kind of gum, a favorite something crunchy or chewy, those all kind of help relieve some of the stress, right? Stress balls, fidgets where you're like moving your fingers a lot with them, right? So, what are some things that you would put in your comfort kit? Drop those in the comments. I'm going to leave a link to a list in the comment or in the description as well. So, that is our home and family. Now we're going to move to the center ring. Welcome to the center ring, y'all. We are almost through with this. Monday, Monday, Monday. So, we are talking about the center ring, which is all about self. And I've already talked about having a morning routine. We talked about how a night routine helps the morning routine. Those are some things we already talked about. They're kind of already water under the bridge. You can look into last week's stuff if you want to. I will link it up here, I think. Yeah. If you missed it. But I want to talk a little bit about the responsibility that we all have to ourselves and to those who we are leading. Okay, kids, if you have like anybody that you're a guardian over, stuff like that, right? Because it is really difficult for kids to pick up on stuff like this if they're not seeing it modeled. And so this is one of those spaces where a lot of times we as parents get a bad rap because it's like, well, you're doing that gentle parenting thing, or I can't believe you apologize to your kids. Well, yeah, I'm going to apologize to my kids because if I don't apologize to them, they're not going to know how to apologize when it's their turn to apologize to somebody. And they're not going to understand that it has to come from the heart and not just be told to them to do it. Like they have to see those connections. They have to see, oh, wait a minute, this, mom did this or dad did this. And then all of a sudden they felt bad because they realized this. And so they said they were sorry and they made that connection, right? And sometimes we as adults were taught that apologizing is for weak people. That it doesn't matter if you are sorry. You don't have to apologize. Like people should just assume that you're sorry, right? Because apologies are like, they make you look bad. They make you look like you're admitting that you were wrong when you can just like kind of shove it under the carpet and kind of forget about it. And that's not how most of us, I would think, would want our kids to treat their husbands, wives, friends, bosses, people, whatever, when they get to be older. But if they're not seeing us as adults modeling that behavior, then they're not going to realize that adults have to do that. And then when they get to be adults, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm an adult now, so I don't have to do this. See? See? So that's why it is so important for those of us who have little ones at home, even bigger little ones, right? Especially bigger little ones because they're watching and they are taking like account of, okay, I have to apologize, but you don't. Why? Okay, so once I hit 18, then I don't have to apologize anymore? Is that how this works? Or I don't have to apologize to my kids even if I was wrong? Not okay. So, some ways that we can do this is like slowing down, trying to be very intentional when we think about it, right? And sometimes we're going to have reactions. Like that happens. That's life. You can try as hard as you can every single day. At a certain point, you're going to hit that breaking point. And then anything that happens after that is hit or miss, right? You might be able to control it. You might not, okay? You might have a moment where you might get frustrated. You might say something you don't mean. You might snap. You might, zone out and not mean to. And, your kids or your significant other or someone might feel like you're ignoring them. The point is, we need to, as much as possible, be aware of what's going on. Once we're aware, and then we like are choosing our behavior, right? We don't have to choose every single time because that would be impossible and it would make us feel like failures the second we didn't do it. But if we are, when we think about it, we're like, oh, wait a minute, I could do this or I could do that. I'm going to choose the right one, right? I'm going to choose to do the right thing. And if we're doing that more times than we're not, our kids are seeing that. They're going to pick up on that. It's going to help you get them to do stuff, which is going to take more stress off of you. It's just something that helps, right? And so this is always when we start to panic about stuff, right? Whether that's, the weather or, somebody's out in the weather and not home and you want them home and you're worried or, all these different little things that we get worried about and frustrated about when we can kind of calm ourselves down, right? What are the things that we are like that are in our control? Because we're not in control of anybody else or how anybody else reacts. We're only in control of ourselves. So, how am I going to choose to react to this? What am I going to choose to do? Again, there's lots of things that we can do, right? We can have like a bag full of like stuff that like okay, I'm going to tell you right now. One of the things that I have been doing on my phone lately is like brain teaser stuff like Sudoku, and there's a crossword one on there that I do. And it's stuff where I have to be thinking about something other than what's going on around me. Because if I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start leaning into that worry, I'm like, nope, we're not gonna think about that. We're gonna go do this. And to people who are like, well, that's like a ridiculously irresponsible thing to do. What is responsible about constantly worrying over something and in the end not changing the outcome anyway? Okay? Or, okay, maybe you change the outcome, but did you change the outcome in a way that helps? I know that sometimes we can have these moments where we're like, oh, I came up with the solution. But then later on down the road, we realize that the solution only caused more problems for later that we weren't thinking about. It fixed this problem, but it's like taking a patch off of this spot and putting it over this, but then this spot's leaking, right? So you need to figure out a way to make a new patch to put over that, or a new way to plug that up, or a new way to, fix that. Versus, oh, let's just take this patch from here and put it over here. And then we look at that, oh, we're going to take it. And by the time you do that a few times, your patch isn't sticky anymore, you know? So I want you guys, like I said, just to realize that being safe, like a good portion of the time, not always, but a good portion of the time, the things that we are worried about happening don't happen. We are just so worried. And most of the time, this is the other thing I want you to ask yourself. Am I worried about the actual outcome of the thing? Or am I worried about how everybody is going to look at me if a certain outcome happens? I'm going to use the unpopular, which is popular, but it's the unpopular thing of money, right? So maybe you quit your job because you have this opportunity coming in, and then all of the sudden, other things in your life start to kind of move around because you're taking this opportunity. And as you're taking this opportunity and this stuff is moving around, now you're getting a little bit overwhelmed. You're kind of worried, how am I going to do this? You kind of feel like maybe you made a mistake. Everything feels a little shaky, right? And now you're like, everybody's going to think that I was irresponsible doing this. When that could have been the most responsible thing that you could do in the moment. You need to have some faith in yourself, right? And I'm not saying this is for everybody. Everybody's got these things though, right? For mine, my big one has been homeschool. I pulled my kids out of school and I know that I did the right thing. People around me are like, oh, you need to put them back in school. You're a single mom. You can't do this on your own. You don't really have, you have help, but like, what if that help can't do it? What if something happens? Like, then you're going to be stuck. And I'm like, I love everybody because they're worried. I love everybody because they have what what in their opinion is my best interest and the kid's best interest at heart. But at the same time, I also know that leaving them in there in a space where basically they were really, really unhappy is just not the right decision. And so we can shuffle all these things around and try to make things work, and it can take a while, and that's fine. Because I'd rather shuffle things around here and know that I have some control over stuff than not be able to shuffle anything around, not have any control, and then not even like my kids kind of just fade into the background because they wanted mom to do something. They wanted mom to fix the problem. And instead I said, well, I can't because what if I don't have help? And what if I can't do this? And what if that sounds super irresponsible to me to say, okay, I'm going to leave all this up to the teachers knowing what I know, right? So everybody has those things, right? Where you just have to know that you know certain things and then just stick to it and do it, right? But when we get to that space where we start to like panic, take your attention off of the panic. Take it off of what you're doing. Think about something else. Do something else. Get yourself involved in something else. It always helps. All right, guys, we are going into the third ring. I want you guys to drop in the comments, what is one thing that you are going to start doing when you start to get into that not feeling safe space, right? What is like a distraction, a grounding? Are you going to take a nap? What is something that you're going to try to do the next time your body feels unsafe? Let me know in the comments. Well, welcome to Ring 3. We are here, last segment before we close this day out. So, in business, this is a make or break deal. Whether it's business, whether this is not so much your passion projects, but also I think that in business, if you're not making definite decisions, then you're not making any decisions. In passion projects, volunteering, things like that, it's the same thing. If you aren't making definite decisions, if you are feeling unsafe in the decisions that you are making, you're going to go back on them. You're not going to do things. You're going to give up or you're going to change your mind. And so, this is the place where we need to learn those tactics. We need to learn those things. Um, those like we need to allow ourselves to do the things that we know in our heart of hearts are right. And sometimes there isn't a definite, like, okay, this is the decision I'm making. I know this is the decision. Sometimes it's like both sides look good or both sides don't look good. And it's like, okay, it's the lesser of two evils, or either way, it could be good. It could be good either way, but we don't know which one's the best. So I was actually watching a video the other day, and Tony Robbins was talking, and he was talking about somebody that he had worked with and their story. And I know I'm going to botch it, so I'm not even going to try to quote it. All right, I will leave I will leave the link to that in the description as well, so you can hear that story. But one of the things that he was saying, the way he was basically saying it is, make a decision. If you're wrong, you'll find out faster than if you just don't make a decision at all. And then you can pivot and you can, work around that, right? But if we are sitting in indecisiveness and we're not making decisions because we don't know which way we need to go or we want to go, that's a space where it's only going to hurt you in the long run. You are only going to be in the space where, like, it kills your momentum, it kills any kind of motivation that you have. You just get to the space where you're like, well, I can't move this way and I can't move that way, so I might as well just go to sleep. And yeah, don't get me wrong, sometimes we need to go to sleep and get our mind off of all of it, right? But you still need to decide things, and you still need to move forward in those deciding things. Maybe you move forward and you get blocked, and then you move forward a different way and you get blocked, and then you move forward a different way and you get blocked, and you keep going, right? You just keep going. Take a break. That's one thing. I will give you a really good example of this. All right. For those of you who know me and know my situation, we've been trying to move to Florida for about 5 months now. And it keeps coming up from different people, and people are asking, and they're like, so are you really moving, or did you decide not to, or what's going on? And it's like, no, the idea has always been to move. And I would, I think, in fact, I know, I'm not going to say I think, I know that I could have pushed the issue on a few things, but we would have been in a situation that wasn't right. And so, because we didn't want to push that into a situation that just didn't feel right at that point, we decided, okay, there was a couple of things that kind of worked, but kind of didn't, and maybe were a go, but maybe weren't, and started to be okay, but then went back. And I was like, all right, I'm not dancing with this. Like, this is a yes. But every time there was a no, it was, wait a minute, there's this part about this that I wouldn't necessarily want, and that part about that I wouldn't necessarily want. And so, while yes, in theory, and I know that this is what a lot of people, like, logically, a lot of people would say, well, just get down there and then you can move in another year. And then if you don't like that, you can move in another year. Man, moving is exhausting to your nervous system. We are talking about nervous system and having a calm nervous system. Every time you move, think about every time you move, every time you have to like find the place, get accepted into the place, pack everything up, get everything over there, clean everything in your old place, hope that everything's good in your old place. Like there's so much to it. And so making that decision from a place of, I don't want to be in a place that 2 weeks after we move in, I don't want to be in. I don't want to be in a place where it's kind of an I like this about this, but I really don't like that. And I like that about the place, but there's this problem. Like, there's always going to be problems, yes. But when you can see the problems, like when they're there and you're like, it's like the lesser of two evils, like, no, thank you. There's something better out there. And I know that there is. So that is one of those spaces, though, where I've not given up. And I know that some people think I have because, like I started doing this, I was doing the holiday playbook during holiday time, and I've been doing school, and I've been putting my attention on other things. And the reason for that is because I haven't seen anything that's really caught my eye that has been feasible in the moment. Okay. So I have the ideas, I have them saved, I have everything going. We are moving forward on certain things, but it's a slow process. And so, because I know it's going to be slower than I want it to be, I am finding things that I enjoy. I'm finding things to put my attention and time into that I know are going to carry me until we get to this new chapter because I know it's coming. So when you are in that space where you're like, I know something's on the horizon, I know it's like right there. We are so close. I can feel it, right? But then it's not surfacing, it's not manifesting, it's not coming to pass. And you're like, well, maybe I'm just insane. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe it's not what I think it is. I'm going to tell you right now, there is always this space, all right? And as a neurodivergent person, we are so much more sensitive to energy. We are so much more sensitive to other people's moods, to other, to just everything, right? Like that's one of the reasons why I've pulled myself away from certain people because I know they mean well. I know they mean well. They want to know. They want me to keep them up to date and they're thinking that we're just chugging along and I'm just not telling them about it. But I also hear the tone of voice every time I say, "Okay, well, this one didn't work out." And it's like I know that right now I can't handle that. I know that right now that is that sensitive space, right? Where I'm going to start questioning it a little bit and then I'm going to have to work twice as hard. So it's just easier to kind of, okay, we're going to shelter ourselves for a minute. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of life. Part of life is that ebb and flow. Some days you're going to be out there, you're going to be happy, getting along with everybody, doing the thing. And sometimes, just like a seed, sometimes it's like hibernation time, right? It's like time to just kind of go in and take care of yourself and keep your head where it needs to be. And then when it happens, it's going to happen and it's going to be so beautiful. And you're going to be so excited that you didn't give up. But if you're out there telling all these people and having to combat all of this well meaning help where people are just trying to keep you from getting disappointed in things, right? If you are watching this, if you are watching this ring, I guarantee you, you are one of those people who is highly ambitious, wants more than one stream of income, is in that space where you are like, I want it all. I want it all, and I want it all now. And I love that. And I am so excited for you because you are in the right place. We are going there this year. Sometimes we just have to like take a minute, right? We have to like be stable in ourselves. Sometimes we have those moments where we get this little bit of like rest because once things hit, it's going to be hard and fast and it's going to be crazy. So getting that moment of like, okay, I can rest. I can get my like foundation set up. I can get all of my little things together and figure out all my little, this part and like my house routine and my like morning routine and my evening routine and food and all these different things. And I can get those all done while we're just sitting here waiting, right? But what we end up doing is we get frustrated, we get discouraged, and we don't do any of it because we're like, I just want this. And once this happens, the rest of it can fall into place. And it's like, no, no, you need to start working on the other stuff while you are believing wholeheartedly in the big stuff. Because once you get those things in order, the big stuff's just going to fall. The opportunities are going to come, things are going to happen. So, how do we like get ourselves to that point, right? And it can be hard. Again, I say, I'm speaking to my neurodivergent friends who we feel the sensitivity, we feel that that's so much different than other people do. We feel the ebbs and the flows, and there are days when I feel the energy shift and it's like I just want to go run a marathon. Now, I can't run a marathon, obviously, but I feel like that's the amount of energy and passion I have that I just want to go do all the things. And then there are some days when it's just like, even though I like am not in a place where I feel sad or frustrated or whatever, I'm tired and I know I'm tired and I know I need like the rest and it needs to be okay because that's the other side of things. We can't just like run and just continue to run and go and go and go forever. We still have human bodies. That's not gonna last us to do that. So having that moment where we can just be like, okay, I can have both. I can rest when it's time to rest because I'm allowed to, because I need to recharge so that when I do get those spurts of energy, I'm all equal and ready to rock and roll all the way through. I used to laugh so hard because it never failed. Like, I would have a down day where I would be able to relax, but then I couldn't sleep that night. And so the next day, when I should be ready and raring to go, my brain was tired. I was physically exhausted, even though, like, I had the break. I had that, like, chance to, like, let go. And now I'm like, okay, I have all these ideas and all these things. And it's like, you need to learn to drop things. It's okay. It'll be there. You can pick it back up. I promise. And it's been a struggle. I'm not going to lie. I've literally been going through it for the last few weeks where it's just like some days I'm like, let's go, and I get all this stuff done, and then sometimes it's like I'm struggling to get anything done, and then I have days where I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything. Like, I know I'm not doing anything, right? I'm going to talk about energy tomorrow, but you need to be able to feel that like safeness, right? I'm allowed to have these moments. I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm not going to panic when I'm tired. I'm going to give my body what it needs because that is my body telling me what it needs. And I'm not going to stress about things because that's not helping. If I relax and rest when I need to, then when I'm done and my body feels rejuvenated and my brain feels better, I'm going to be in a better space to figure out the solutions, right? All right, guys. I want you to drop in the comments what is one decision, one thing that is like hard for you to make, okay? I don't want to use the word panicked. It's not like that, but it's like we all have those decisions, whether it's in business, whether it's in, volunteering, like I said, whatever it is in that area where it's like, this is something I want to do. This is something I aspire to do. This is something, but I just can't quite do the thing, right? I mean, I still feel stuck back here. And what is one thing? I want you to type what that thing is, and then I want you to type one thing that you can do. So another thing that you can do to like detach from it for a minute. And then what is one small action that you can take toward it? And I'm going to tell you the way we're going to do this. So you're going to think about whatever that thing is that you're just like, maybe it's, if you're doing like content creation, like I know a lot of you are, maybe it's like, I really need this like tool, right? Maybe it's a scheduling tool, maybe it's an editing tool, maybe it's, something like that. And I need to pay for it. But I'm really scared to pay for it because I don't know if I'm going to get anything, get the return of the investment. And so I want you to like take a deep breath and I want you to think about that thing. I want you to think about what's one step you can take toward it. So maybe that's looking into like alternatives, right? Because maybe you find something that's free that you can use for the moment. Maybe you find something that has like a free trial that you don't have to put a credit card in. Believe me, you don't want to put credit cards in free trials because, yeah, that doesn't work out very good for us usually. But maybe you find something like that and you do that. And then I want you to take a step back and I want you to do that other thing to get your mind off of it, because we are like, okay, it's kind of like, okay, I'm making that step, but I'm not going to stress over it, because it's kind of like giving that thing away that you kind of wanted to keep, but this person really, really wants it. And now you like kind of want to take it back and you kind of want to, or you say something and then it's like, I don't know if I should have said that. I kind of want to take that back, but that could hurt that person's feelings and I just don't know anymore. And it's going to make you panic. And that's what we're trying to get away from. So we're going to make the decision and then we're going to like let go of it and we're going to go do whatever that thing is to get our mind off of it. Because I can pretty much promise you, when you come back to it later, you're not going to be as panicked about it. You're going to realize you did this for a reason. You're moving forward, you're making strides, you're making steps towards what you want. And that's a good thing. All right, guys, drop those in the comments. Let's wrap this episode up. Woohoo! We did it. We got through our second Monday in this show. I am so grateful that you guys are here. I'm so grateful that you guys are taking part in this week. This is a very special week, okay? We're talking about the nervous system. We're talking about all of the ways that we can help ourselves do the things, ease into the things. Like tomorrow, we're going to be talking about energy, right? And there's like ways that we can tap into when we have higher energy and when we have lower energy and not feel like we're dropping the ball. Wouldn't that be great to like know that you could still move your thing forward even when you were exhausted? You were still doing something to move it forward, and then you didn't have to feel bad, and then you could just calm down and go like, okay, I did the thing. Now I can go rest. Now I can go do what my body needs. So, thank you guys for being here. I am going to leave tons of resources in the description on this one because I pulled from so many different places. So, I am again ridiculously glad that you guys showed up. I cannot wait till tomorrow. I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful Monday.